All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. With thousands, literally thousands of new data tools launching every single year, the whole data science ecosystem isn't just sprawling anymore, it's practically overflowing with pipelines and buzzwords, right? So today, we're going to unpack this absolutely brilliant concept from Anand Vemula over at the Tech Horizon channel. It's a framework that completely cuts through all that noise. We're going to build a mental model together that actually makes sense of the entire landscape from start to finish.
So, the big question is, how do we actually organize all this chaos in data science? And it really is a vital question because, let's be honest, that is exactly what the modern data landscape feels like right now. Just absolute chaos. Think about it. You've got raw data streaming in from 100 different directions, you've got analysts trying desperately to make sense of the past, and algorithms trying to predict the future. Without some kind of structural solution in place, it's just a giant mess of information. We absolutely need a way to categorize all these moving parts so we can, actually build something valuable. Okay, here's our map for today. First, we'll look at the data science periodic table itself. Then, we'll break down the specific elements: ETL, analytics, and machine learning. And finally, we'll bring the whole shebang together to master the analytics workflow. So, starting off with Section 1, the Data Science Periodic Table, a framework straight from Tech Horizon.
Okay, so just like the traditional periodic table from high school chemistry categorizes the entire universe based on atomic properties, Anand Vemula's framework does the exact same thing for complex data tools, grouping them by their systemic properties. It's a really cool way to look at it. Think of, say, Python as your versatile carbon, or a massive data lake as your deep-sea hydrogen. When you group things like this, it makes it incredibly easy to see how they're going to react with one another. By treating these highly technical tools as basic, elemental properties, we build a much clearer mental model of the whole ecosystem. Moving right along to Section 2, ETL, which we're calling the base elements.
Now, ETL, extract, transform, load, represents your essential base metals. Now, if you're watching this, you probably already know what it is. But in this specific framework, we're viewing it as the raw, unrefined ore of our chemical process. It's simple. Without mining and refining this messy, disorganized raw material first, no other reactions can possibly take place. It is the absolute foundational pipeline process. It's totally required before any of that high-level fancy modeling can even begin.
We all know the literal life cycle here, right? Extract the raw data, transform it into usable formats, and load it into a storage destination. But we also know that transform step is usually where data engineers start losing their hair. It's the heavy lifting. It's the grunt work required to strip out impurities, standardizing these massive, completely unorganized dumps so your data is actually ready for the fun stuff that comes later. You extract from the source, you survive that transformation gauntlet, and you load it into a centralized destination. Without this rock-solid base, the rest of the table just collapses.
Next up is Section 3, Analytics. This is about uncovering the data, acting as our catalyst. Because here's the thing. Data just sitting in a warehouse is completely inert. It doesn't actually do anything on its own. And that is exactly why analytics acts as the catalyst. It's the spark. It ignites that raw material we just loaded, systematically analyzing it to uncover hidden patterns. Essentially, turning a giant pile of numbers into a clear, compelling story about your business. It's how we interpret what we've collected and, more importantly, communicate actual, meaningful insights.
All right, Section 4, Machine Learning, powering the predictions with the heavy metals.
So if analytics is your catalyst, machine learning is your highly reactive heavy metal. Instead of just looking back at what already happened, these models feed off those massive, refined data sets we just prepared so they can look ahead. They are the dense, incredibly powerful algorithms that automate anticipation. They rely entirely on patterns and inferences they find in the data, giving your systems the power to perform complex tasks and actually predict outcomes dynamically.
The difference between analytics and ML is, it's kind of like driving a car. Analytics focuses on the past. It's your rearview mirror. It tells you what your sales were last quarter and exactly why they dipped in November. Machine learning, on the other hand, focuses on predicting the future. It's your headlights. It takes that historical momentum and shines a light on the road ahead, predicting what those sales will likely be next quarter based on the patterns. Hindsight versus foresight. And honestly, both are absolutely essential if you want a complete data strategy. Which brings us to Section 5, Mastering the Analytics Workflow. This is where we see the reaction.
This right here is the ultimate chemical reaction. First, you start with your base elements, you apply ETL to wrangle the absolute chaos of your raw data into a clean, structured warehouse. Second, you introduce the catalyst. You run analytics to make sense of the history and discover those hidden patterns. And finally, boom, you drop in the heavy metals, deploying machine learning models on top of those insights to start automating your predictions about the future. That cohesive end-to-end workflow, that is exactly how you transform chaos into clairvoyance.
So just to really lock in this mental model before we wrap up. 1. You organize the chaos with the periodic table model. 2. You build a strong, solid base with ETL. 3. You understand the past with analytics. And 4. You predict the future with ML. It's a perfectly cohesive framework that maps out the entire analytics lifecycle, front to back.
I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. How will you apply this periodic table to map out your own tech horizon? Seriously, think about it. Whether you're building an app, analyzing a market, or trying to scale up a platform, this workflow, from ETL to analytics to ML, is the exact blueprint you need to turn raw data into real, tangible impact. Take a hard look at your own projects today. Which element are you missing? Go out there, complete your table, and I will catch you in the next explainer.